Hi guys, welcome to Brand X Reviews. Today I'm going to be talking about the new Thor film, Thor Ragnarok, which just came out today in the UK. Today is the 24th, is it, of October, Tuesday. So basically, this is going to be a spoiler-free review, so don't worry if you're worried about spoilers. I'm not going to give anything away specifically. But what did I think about the film anyway, the main thing? I enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot more fun and enjoyable compared to the previous two films, and I still liked the previous two films. Having said that, I thought that Thor the Dark World was probably one of my lesser favourite of the Marvel Cinematic Universe films. It just felt a bit too a bit too gloomy, I think, and some of the sort of the colour palette of it as well just wasn't very kind of vibrant and bright in a lot of ways. But it depends what you prefer. Obviously, this one has been kind of accused of being I say accused because in a lot of cases it's been said as a negative, being basically Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which is not the case at all. I've heard some reviewers, some respected reviewers that I follow say this Thor film does not fit with the other two films. You know, if you have a box set that comes out when this film gets eventually released on home video, it's very unlikely that they will release the Thor Trilogy, because this film is so far removed from those first two films, it cannot possibly be packaged with those. I'm calling absolute bullshit on that. This film follows up where Thor the Dark World left off in so many ways. It does also follow up from Avengers Age of Ultron, which was always said when this film got announced back in 2014, in the October announcement at the El Capitan Theatre. Kevin Feige did say Thor Ragnarok is going to follow on directly from Avengers Age of Ultron. In many ways it does. It's not the next day, it's set 2 years after, but it does follow up on some of the loose ends that were left there, and very satisfactorily follows up on the loose ends that were left at the end of Thor the Dark World, because obviously at the end of that film you saw Loki on the throne of Asgard posing as Odin, so you don't find out specifically, in fact no you do find out specifically what he did, what the situation was there, where Odin went, and to me it's a satisfactory answer to that question. So I do say this is a decent follow-up film to the previous two Thor films, and it does continue from that. Now again, going back to what I was saying about it being Guardians of the Galaxy 3, again, I'm calling bullshit on that. This isn't like a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. I will say it's very clear that it's been influenced by those films. You have to remember, the first two Thor films came out before Guardians of the Galaxy 1 came out, and at that time, we didn't know if this sort of space opera comedy thing was even going to work. A lot of people were sceptical about it. I myself was I wasn't sceptical, but I was kind of like, okay, when I saw like Guardians of the Galaxy getting made, because obviously they hadn't gone that far out, they hadn't played that risk at that moment. So the previous Thor films had the comedy element, but they weren't as kind of out and out, let's just do it for the laughs kind of thing. This film, obviously now in Marvel, they realise that not only can they get away with doing what Guardians of the Galaxy did, that's actually what the audience tends to really resonate with the most. So they ramped it up a bit in this, and it's very clear. And it also makes sense to do that because this is part of the universe, the Marvel universe. Not everything has to have the same colour spectrum and the same tone and sensibilities and sense of humour. But it makes sense if you're doing this, sort of out off-earth kind of story now. You're going to kind of want it to feel like it's in the same universe as the other Marvel movies. And obviously a lot of people like Guardians of the Galaxy, so they're going to want to somehow make it fit with that. But I wouldn't say this is like Guardians of the Galaxy. There's certainly the same amount of humour, I would say, actually, not even that. I'd say there's less jokes than there are in Guardians of the Galaxy, but not that many less jokes. Certainly more jokes than there were in most of the Marvel films. But I mean, Spider-Man Homecoming was very comedic as well, as was Ant-Man. And, if you like those films, I say you probably like this as well. Now, a few little negative things about this, without spoiling anything. There were a couple of things that did kind of bother me slightly, but not. I wouldn't say, it's rubbish. some characters in this were kind of thrown away, let's put it that way. I'm not saying characters die, I mean in any film characters usually die, but in this, characters that we already know were just kind of came and went very quickly. Like I say, I'm not saying they died, it might just be that they were in it and then just kind of buggered off. But when you see the film, you'll know what I mean, and I was kind of disappointed with that. In fact, there were some characters from previous Thor films that weren't in this, and in some cases we knew that going in. We knew which actors and actresses were kind of difficult to work with in previous films, so they didn't come back, not to name names. Natalie Portman. But there were other characters that just didn't show up that I was like, what the hell? Bit kind of weird, but again, that's a fairly minor gripe, is that really? Not exactly something to write the film off for, but again, you know, if we're going to kind of talk about pros and cons here, that was definitely something that was a bit of a negative. Now, one thing I'll go into, and I don't consider this a spoiler, because it's been spoken about before. Obviously, in the original Thor film, the first one from 2011, die-hard fans will have seen this. There's a bit in the first film, where you see the Infinity Gauntlet, and this is the first time they really prefaced that in any of these Marvel movies, off the top of my head anyway, where you saw in Odin's vault, there was a quick flash where you saw quite clearly it was the Infinity Gauntlet with the stones, and it was all lit up. But a lot of fans will have noticed, it was the wrong hand. So Kevin Feige, at some point fairly recently, in the last sort of year or two, I recall him saying, well, actually, it's going to turn out that the Infinity Gauntlet that you saw in that wasn't the Infinity Gauntlet, that was a fake. And I thought, well, okay, I mean, he's saying that, but that's not been established in the films, so yeah, I prefer to have something like that established in the films, like when they said that the kid in Iron Man 2 at the Stark Expo that's dressed up like Iron Man, they've said outside of the films, they said, yeah, that is Peter Parker. They haven't established that in the films, but Tom Holland and Kevin Feige have said that. So similar to this, when they said that Infinity Gauntlet from the first Thor film is not a real one, it was a decoy or whatever, this film addresses that. I'm not going to spoil that, but any further than that. But this film does address that, and it was quite satisfactory, because that to me felt like a bit of a loose end. And it's like, it's kind of cool that you saw the Infinite Gauntlet, but it can't be the Infinite Gauntlet. So what is it? But this film addresses that, so I do like it when they do stuff like that. So there's plenty of other things I could say about this. I won't go into anything, because the more I talk, the more I'm going to get into sort of spoilers. So I'll just say I recommend this film. Where do I rank this at the moment? It's hard to tell when you've just finished watching a film, but I would say I won't quite put it in the top tier. My top tier of Marvel movies would be films like the original Iron Man, Captain America the Winter Soldier, Avengers Assemble, obviously, and Civil War, and maybe a couple of others. My middle tier I would reserve more for things like Ant-Man, the first Captain America, Iron Man 2 and 3 possibly. I probably rank this sort of the upper middle tier, sort of. So it's close to being in the top tier, is this one, in my opinion. But again, it depends what you're looking for in these movies, because a friend of mine that I went to see this with, he said it was so bad he hated it. And he said, yeah, he really hated it. But then that friend of mine does like the DC movies more. He prefers the more sort of dark films. So I can understand why someone might think that. But you too might watch this and think, oh, it's bad, it's awful, it's too funny, it's too many jokes, whatever. Some people might think, I like the fact that it's got plenty of jokes, and that would be me. So my review of this, very happy with it, and I'm looking forward to what comes next. And again, no spoilers here. Do stay till the very end. I know in some cases before with Marvel films, it's quite rare. There hasn't been anything right at the arse end of the film. This has two post-credit scenes. Well, it has one mid-credit scene and one final post-credit scene. So do stay right till the end, I'll say that. And I think that's a pretty good sort of note to end on anyway. I might do a follow-up review of this where I talk about spoilers. I know my co-reviewer, The Core, came to see this with us as well, so he's probably got plenty of things to say. But I just got back and it's really late now, so I'll end this video here and say thank you very much for watching. And check back in the next week or so, because we're going to have some Halloween-related videos. In fact, here's a trailer for those reviews right now. Thank you very much.